Good morning and thank you SMI for the opportunity to address the conference today at this prestigious Sage Gateshead venue. I know some of the delegates decided to start early in the Hilton Hotel, and if you're sitting anywhere near OSIA or BMT, I would suggest you keep the noise down, certainly for the first hour or so. The chair talked about his red card, yellow card system, and I'm keen that I don't overstep the bounds. I did suggest he might be able to come up with a sort of alcoholic financial penalty attached, but then he realized that he'd probably be paralytic by lunchtime, so we've decided to give that a miss. Anyway, to the meat of the matter, I am obviously speaking to you today as Chief Executive Officer of the National Shipbuilding Office, and following on from my boss, the Shipbuilding Tsar, the Right Honourable Ben Wallace, who is genuinely disappointed not to be here today. As he said, he is slightly distracted with events in Europe at the moment, but he's really keen to meet as many of you as possible, to hear your ideas, to hear your challenges, because government doesn't have all the right answers, and to come up with ways to make it better. And the refresh, which we'll be publishing in the next few days, and the Secretary of State alluded to next week. He may have misspoken there. It will be some point over the next few days. The final dotting the I's and crossing the T's is still going on down in Whitehall. And why is it delayed? It's delayed because we wanted to get it right. There is no point in putting a strategy out that is not funded or cannot be implemented. And so we worked really hard across government to bring all those elements together so that when we do publish and when we do announce, you will have the confidence that it actually means something and that we can deliver it. So I'm genuinely delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you today on our shared vision and ambition for the UK shipbuilding enterprise. During the next 20 minutes, and conscious of the yellow card, I'll be providing you with an early insight into the upcoming National Shipbuilding Strategy refresh, an overview of how the refresh will drive forward the core themes of this year's SMI annual conference, the reason we're here, how as a maritime enterprise we will work collectively to implement the objectives set out in the refresh. Crucially, what does good, what does great look like? And finally, complete with some key takeaways. But before we do that, I'd just like to come on to the world shipbuilding, which is slightly misleading in this context of a National Shipbuilding Office or the National Shipbuilding Strategy, because it's not just about building hulls, whether they're made of steel, aluminium, or any other medium. It's much more than that. It's about the whole enterprise. It's about commissioning. It's about supply chain. It's about integration. It's about skills. It's about the finance, both domestic and international, to support the work that the great British shipbuilding enterprise does, and many, many more stakeholders involved. So it is truly a huge enterprise, even if the actual numbers within the United Kingdom are not that huge. So, some of you in other briefs will have seen a bit more detail. This is deliberately dumbed down is the wrong word, but this gives you the highlights and I will give you the voiceover because I'm really keen not to steal my cross-government colleagues' sandwiches as we look to publish in the next few days, as I said. So the UK shipbuilding sector and the wider maritime enterprise is one of the government's top domestic priorities, and that sets the context for everything I want to speak about today. Shipbuilding actively supports a number of the government's biggest ambitions, be that levelling up global Britain, net zero, strengthening the union, building back better, skills, innovation, and of course, growth. There is a great deal of momentum and interest in shipbuilding across government. The PM and the Shipbuilding Tsar are really seized with this, and we should capitalise on that interest. We have a real opportunity to move quickly to seize this moment. Now is very much time for action, and we will come back to that before I conclude. So the National Shipbuilding Strategy refresh vision is to drive transformative change to empower a globally successful, innovative, and sustainable shipbuilding enterprise that works for all parts of the United Kingdom. You are as frustrated as I have been on occasion with the delays to publishing it, but trust me, it will be worth it because it will be funded. It will be critical to developing a comprehensive and meaningful, critical to developing a comprehensive and meaningful refresh strategy was to ensure that it wasn't developed in isolation. And that is why the refresh has been jointly developed between industry, the supply chain, academia, and colleagues right across government, most notably through the development of the impressive rich picture, which you will be able to see outside during the course of the conference, which brings all the elements together in one really impactful visual medium. And of course, all that's been overseen, encouraged, and challenged by the Maritime Enterprise Working Group. And both them, I'd like to commend both them and the Society of Maritime Industries for their efforts and their support in understanding the problem so that we can begin to apply the solution. Based on consultations across the enterprise, the refresh addresses the most important enablers for success. These include the government's demand signal, skills and productivity, exports and access to finance, and of course, R&D and technology. But it is not just about grey ships and naval forces. That was 2017. So John Parker did his review of that 2017 strategy in 2019 and said, it's okay, you're heading in the right direction, but it's a bit naval. Also, government departments are doing great work, but you're not talking to each other. You need to be joined up and cohered. And that's why one of the first recommendations of the report was the establishment of the National Shipbuilding Office. And you're stuck with me today. You will soon get the opportunity to read the refresh in its entirety, but today, in line with the theme of this year's conference, my address will be focusing on the R&D and technology elements. So this year's SMI annual conference focuses on four main themes, as we know: decarbonising maritime, the role of technology and marine science, offshore renewable opportunities, and creating the conditions for success. As I've said, the refresh is more than just about hulls and absolutely champions and drives forward all those other themes I've mentioned. I recognise that the decarbonisation agenda is hugely challenging and that we, the NSO, need to play our part in working with industry, but there are sizable opportunities in this area too. In particular, the refresh places emphasis on supply chain, innovation, sustainability, and how this all links to growth and prosperity. The UK has committed to ambitious action on domestic shipping emissions in line with our world-leading commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the economy to net zero by 2050. To meet decarbonisation targets, the global maritime industry expects an annual investment of 35 to 50 billion US dollars over the next 20 years, including on vessels and marine assets. The global shift towards decarbonisation means that a significant market opportunity is unfolding for the UK to carve out its USP for green maritime technology. Low-emission fuels are perhaps the most prominent opportunity, but the market beyond this also presents significant opportunities for UK companies in both wind and tidal, and I'm very excited to see the representation at the conference over the next couple of days as we unpick that a bit further. A focus on clean technology will serve to secure UK market share more quickly, while aligning with our climate ambitions to achieve net zero carbon by 2050. I've already seen impressive examples of where the UK's maritime enterprise is striving forward in this sector, and it is genuinely exciting. If collectively we can corner that market, it will be a valuable opportunity for the entire maritime enterprise. So recognizing the opportunities created by the green maritime revolution, the net zero strategy highlighted that the Department for Transport would explore creating a UK shipping office for reducing emissions, or UK Shore. And the government has committed to expanding the heavily oversubscribed Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition to a multi-year programme. Now, I'm conscious that colleagues from the Department for Transport are here with us today, and we will hear from Minister Courts, the Maritime Minister, later, so far be it for me to steal his or their sandwiches. But the refresh will set out more detail on this exciting programme and the funding that underpins it. Another prominent theme of the refresh is that we will need the right skills at the right time to support the sector, including to support emerging technologies. And every visit that my team and I have done over the last 7 or 8 months, there are some common themes. And top of the list is skills, the skills gap heading down the tracks at pace towards us, and how we collectively, as an enterprise, industry working with government, are going to resolve that. Finally, our 30-year pipeline is intended to encourage investment in areas like R&D and technology. For example, the national flagship will act as a showcase for a range of British green maritime technologies, demonstrating how such technologies can be incorporated through the vessel's lifetime. R&D and technology flow through the strategy and will continue to be a top priority for the NSO as we move towards implementation. All the activity I'd mentioned will, from a cross-government perspective, be cohered and driven forward by the National Shipbuilding Office to ensure we are creating the conditions for success. We're a small team, about 30, expertise from across the government departments we represent, from industry. Most importantly, we have 4 secondees, and I'm delighted to say that our head secondee, recently joined the team, is none other than Tim Curis from the Society of Maritime Industries, who will have your best interests at heart and, along with others, help to keep us all honest. We're housed in the MOD, but we are definitely not the MOD. It has taken me 7 months to get a different coloured lanyard that says National Shipbuilding Office, a moment I'm very proud of, and thank you to my team. But it's important because we're not the MOD, and the strategy is not about grey ships and the Ministry of Defence. And we're already engaged with many people, including those sitting in this room, on how we take it forward. So our comprehensive implementation plan will ensure we hit the ground running the moment the strategy is published. Building on the success of the joint government industry development of the refresh, we will continue to work closely together as we move into the implementation phase. In that phase, the government and industry will collaborate to drive action and challenge through the new Shipbuilding Enterprise for Growth, or the SEG. The SEG will identify opportunities to improve productivity and competitiveness through technology, supply chain, and skills development to ensure all parts of the enterprise are working together to identify solutions. It's cross-government, it's got funding, it will have task and finish groups, and it will set the priorities agreed between government and you as to how we get after the key elements of the strategy. It is a collaboration. And I'm delighted to be able to announce that the Shipbuilding Tsar has invited the President of the Society of Maritime Industries, Mr. John Howie, to co-chair the SEG with me, not just to keep me honest, but also to represent industry's views and to ensure we have a balanced way to tackle the problems going forward. We will hear more from John in a moment, but I know he will be invaluable in that organisation. And the final bit of that is that the SEG reports directly to the Interministerial Group, chaired by the Shipbuilding Tsar, with representatives from across the departments. We've had 2 meetings so far. The second one was last week. 10 ministers represented, and I'll be honest, it got a bit fruity. The ministers were challenging each other vocally and quite rightly, and it just highlighted to me the importance that this is felt across Whitehall. And I take you back to that. We have a momentum now, and we really need to seize it. So what does great look like? Before I conclude, I'd like to explore that for about a minute before I get yellow carded. In relation to our shared vision and ambition for the UK shipbuilding enterprise, the strategy asks us to consider that by the end of this Parliament, UK industry will be responding to the clear demand signals set out in the 30-year cross-government shipbuilding pipeline and investing significantly in its people, infrastructure, and technology. All new vessels for UK waters will be designed with zero emissions capabilities, with industry across the country benefiting from the government's matched investment in UK shore. There is no reason why the UK can't be in the top 3, or indeed the world leader in this area. And employers will report increased skills availability and quality by 25%. We will have started to solve the problem of the skills shortage. It will take many years, but we do have to start now. And the value of UK shipbuilding, boat building, and engineering exports will be on track to increase by 45% by 2030. Big ambitions, I know, but realistic, and we need to work together across the enterprise to deliver them. So to conclude, I want to leave you with some key takeaways from today. Firstly, the NSBS refresh is an ambitious strategy with a clear vision for the enterprise, and most importantly, a funded, credible plan for getting there. Decarbonisation and green technology are clear themes of the refresh, and there is a drive across government to support the maritime enterprise to be a world leader in sustainable maritime technology. We will be working closely with industry as we commence the implementation of the strategy, and the SEG will play a vital role in driving its vision and ambition forwards. And as CEO, I am absolutely hard over that we collaborate as a maritime community. It's only with all the stakeholders involved, committed and working cooperatively, that we'll be able to truly reinvigorate UK shipbuilding. I want to hear your views, I want to hear the problems, I want to be challenged, my team wants to be challenged, and we want to help you overcome some of the speed bumps. And we've had some success, and there are many in this room who've benefited from that assistance, and hopefully the message will get round. Our ears are open, and we are here to help. Members of my team will be at the conference over the next couple of days, and as the chairman announced, you can find us at our stand. We're very much looking forward to catching up with you and meeting as many of you as possible, and I'm very much looking forward to the next couple of days of briefings and discussions as we take this problem forward. Thank you very much.